Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. With the voice, Milt Thompson. Delivering the best of sports programming. Interviews with top celebrities. And the answer to the question, where are they now? And now, Milt Thompson, Playing for Keeps.
Welcome again here to Playing for Keeps. I am your host, the voice, Milt Thompson, right here on WHMB Channel 40. And boy, we've had some fantastic shows, and you're letting us know about it. That's what's more pleasing than that. And you're all out there taking care by taking a good look at our heart sponsors that are working for you. They're doing their great job for you. How about Jiffy Lube? Thank you, Steve Sander, and all the work you do there. And everybody out here that's watching now, they're going to go and get their automobiles treated with the best in care of their automobiles. And yes, eSpot Spas. People are getting healed up every day, and we're getting testimonials from those that even appeared on this show. And thank you, eSpot Spas, for being a regular sponsor here on Playing for Keeps. And, you know, Bleaky Dillon Crandall, law firm, doing great work. Doing a great job with people all over the areas in terms of medical malpractice defense, as well as other general practice work. And I know that you'll patronize them as well. And we're bringing on another sponsor. They'll be able to get their spots delivered up here pretty soon. Isn't that right, Kelly? We're going to bring on the Hope Training Academy as they get ready to do that. And we've had some fantastic shows, as you guys all know, from the matriarch and the strong women, from Sandy Knapp down to Allison Langton and on down to Susan Boffman recently, and Kathy Jordan, the indefatigable one. And so we've had the strong women, but we've also had strong men. And we've also had those that have competed with and against one another. And, you know, Joe, I was just talking off the air there, we're saying, if you get somebody from IU, you got to get somebody from Purdue. We got to balance this thing out since we are an ecumenical, all-loving squad. And today we've got my goodness, he's the Arsenal. He is, he's number 34, after another Purdue number who they keep teasing one another about. And they always talk about that. And we're going to be right back, and we're going to talk with Frank Kendrick of great Arsenal Tech and Purdue fame. And the Warriors, they're in it. They're in it. Yep, we'll be right back here on Playing for Keeps.
Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube.
And welcome back to Playing for Keeps. I am your host, the voice, Milt Thompson, right here on WHMB Channel 40. And, you know, we've had some great shows. And recently, we had a 34 from Purdue who was on here one time. And we've had, just recently, we've had a great show with Big Steve Downing, another IU dude, right? And we've had Ray Tolbert, IU guy. So we've got to mix it back up, and we're going with the Arsenal. He's got his loaded arsenal, and that is number 34, again, Frank Kendrick. Frank, welcome to our show.
Thanks, Milt. It's a pleasure to be here, I tell you. It's been a long time coming.
It has been.
I've been watching you for years.
You've been watching, but you know what? You've caught up, brother. And having you on this show. Had a little chance meeting in the neighborhood, and I said, you ought to come on the show. And Frank says, I get to come on your show? I said, what are you talking about? I get to get you on my show? So we're going to talk with the Arsenal. And Frank Kendrick, tell us a little bit about your growing up in Center Township, if you will, and your matriculation onto Tech High School.
Thanks a lot, Milt. Let me say thanks and everything for having me on. It's a pleasure to be sitting there with you and being able to talk to all the fine people out there. Tell you about my Arsenal. Arsenal Technical High School. I grew up there, came out of school 56, 8th grade, and into the Arsenal. And I watched some guys play that I'm very passionate about the game, always has been. Some guys I looked up to, Mike and Jim Price.
Right.
All those guys there in Douglas Park. So, and I watched them and other guys go on, and I saw what they did and made of themselves. So I said, hey, I want to be that. I want to be able to do what they're doing and be able to help people, come back and help kids, point them in the right direction, mentor them. Everything that's good. I see a lot of, as I look back in retrospect, I see a lot of guys who were very talented but fell on the wayside, fell off the side because they had no guidance. And in a lot of cases, they just wouldn't take any. But I had a home with a mom and a dad, 9 kids. I was the 7th child out of 9, 5 boys, 4 girls. I had some tremendous support, and I had some tremendous people in the community, like Officer Jim Bradley at Northeast Community Center. I played for his teams before we got to high school, because you could only play once you was in the high school team. You couldn't
Right, you could play like PAL clubs and things like that.
No, like they got it today. It's free.
Right.
We freed all that up for them.
Right.
And I know they are appreciating it. It's great. But yeah, all of that I saw. I had a lot of mentors I could see. Oscar Robertson, I would talk to Oscar. The community was very strong in terms of supporting you. I always told guys, I said, if you're going to be a leader, and I always wanted to be a leader and a mentor and wanted other kids to follow in my footsteps, I always said that you can't drink. I've never had a drink of alcohol before in my life. Can't take drugs. I didn't take anything outside of medicines prescribed by the doctor. And you just had to do the right things, because there was somebody who was smaller than you and younger than you who looked up to you, maybe one day wanted to be like you. Did you want to send that with them? You didn't want them to have that. So I was always very cognitive of the younger kids and my nephews and nieces, and I had to be an example.
But you could finger roll.
I could finger roll.
So tell me a little bit about the basketball and how it is that it kind of sets you apart from some of your peers.
It separated you very quickly, because the guys who I really hung around with, they really didn't play organized. Well, one, Rodney Scott and then a few others, they played high school ball. So that separated you from doing the wrong things in terms of being around the wrong people and whatever it is they may be bringing to the table that's invisible. So you stay away from it. But as I said, Officer Neville's at Northeast Community Center, we won, my group, we won the city championship 3 times under Bradley. And he was a big mentor of mine in a lot of different ways. Just was a great man. And I always wanted to return these things, but even bigger.
So you want to take what is given to you in terms of instruction and opportunity and what role models have given to you so that you can pay that forward as well as pay it backwards. And so you've had some good experiences and you won some championships. And tell us a little bit about your stats and all before coming out of Arsenal. And when you win city championships, that's a big thing back in those days, right?
Absolutely.
Because,
it's hard to do.
It's hard to do because you're being challenged by some other very, very good players that are around the area.
Right.
And so tell us about those championships and how it is and how you performed and how you set yourself aside so that you'd ultimately be in the Indiana High School Hall of Fame.
That was always my goal. I've always knew that when I played ball, I always thought that if you were a ball player, and particularly basketball in this state and in Indianapolis on the east side, you had to be the cream of the cream. And you had to be a leader. You had to set a good example for the others. I was always very cognitive of that. But also, you got to play with a little hate. Now, I'd hate you. If you and I were going to go play now, we're going to go on the court, I'd hate you. And till I beat you, and then I beat you, then we're okay.
You were okay.
Yeah.
That's a competitive hate that you're talking about.
Exactly.
Not a hate in the heart, but a hate that like
Right.
I'm until we're not friends.
Right.
Not today. You see a lot of the guys that are competing.
Right.
They're like the best friends. And,
Right,
and they pick each
exactly.
other up, and it's not like
Right.
the old Pistons days where
Right.
they knock your block off, and then they'll talk about, okay, well, we'll be friends maybe later.
Yeah. Exactly.
But now guys grew up together. The rules
Right.
in the world of the pros and all that changed so significantly that and the money has changed. That takes a hard and a soft one's heart when they got a soft landing. But you didn't have a lot of soft landings. So you were competitive and you put up numbers onto the high school all-star team. And tell us about that experience.
It was tremendous. It was my dream. One of my dreams was to be an Indiana All-Star. I loved scoring. I could score. I could shoot it from anywhere on the court. I could take it to the basket, or I could get the rebound, put it back in. I always thought of ways to score, not just being one-dimensional. But I thought of other ways.
We were just talking to Steve Downing on one of our shows here recently. He was talking about, well, I didn't score because I had George McGinnis to score, but you know, when he goes to college, he puts up 47 and 30. I said, okay, but you could play some defense too, though, couldn't you?
Yeah, oh yeah, when we had to.
Okay.
When we were out there competing, yeah, I wanted to stop you.
Stop the guy.
I got to stop you, because if I don't stop you, we're not going to win. I can remember my sophomore year when Coach pulled me up from the JV after about 3 games and put me on the varsity. And that first varsity game was at Tech against Washington. Steve and George, my coach, started me. And boy, I was chomping at the bit to get started. You know,
right.
Washington had one heck of a team. But I went in and I played a heck of a game. I think I had like 15, 16 points, about 10, 11, 12 rebounds, blocked 2 or 3 shots. But the big thing is, what I wanted, I had the mentality I could score anytime I wish, and I about could. When we played Washington in that same game, we had the ball, the score was tied. I was a sophomore, and I got the basketball, they gave me the ball, and I said, just move. And they got out of the way, score, we win the ball game. You know, of course, that became an idiotic ritual.
Sure, exactly.
Which is something that you want.
Something you won't forget.
Never forget, you know, and wanted to be Mr. Basketball and didn't get there, but didn't bother me because I said, I may not wear number 1, but I'm going to be number 1.
There you go. That's a mentality,
Yeah.
as well as physicality, and you had those kind of skills that all kind of came together. Now, you were able to essentially bottle that, make sure you had your grades, and then you're eventually going to move on and get recruited. And we're going to talk about that recruitment during that period of time, because it's not the same as recruitment is today. You know, you had one-class basketball, and you either win or you lose or you go home. Everybody doesn't get a trophy, right?
Right.
But as you were building yourself up for that college scene, you built yourself not only athletically but also academically. And we're going to talk about that recruiting stuff with the Arsenal here and see what else is in his arsenal with number 34, and that is Frank Kendrick. We'll be right back here on Playing for Keeps, talking with Frank Kendrick.
Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube. Playing for Keeps, presented by Jiffy Lube.
And welcome back to Playing for Keeps. I am your host, The Voice, Milt Thompson, right here on WHMB Channel 40, and we're here with the Arsenal from the Arsenal Tech, and he eventually becomes number 34. Now, we had another 34 on our show not too long ago, and I think his name was Walter Jordan.
Yeah.
And when I last saw you, you said, oh, you're going to see Walter? Tell him about number 34, and he'll know who's talking to him. Tell us about your recruitment ultimately down to Purdue.
Well, Walter came in Purdue. He's been recruited by Purdue, and I was his favorite player. I wore 34. So he just said 3-4. He started calling me 3-4. So he looked up to me as a player and as a person. And that was flattering, very flattering, still flattering to me today. But I watched him develop, and I helped him develop. But I knew he had something. He had a target he was after, which was he wanted to be like 34. He wanted to be remembered.
Right.
As not the second 34
Gotcha.
coming in, if not the first one. But I couldn't let him pass me.
There you go.
He couldn't get past
He couldn't get around
No,
you
I couldn't.
anyway.
No. But
Getting to Purdue. Tell us about that.
at Purdue, I went. Obviously, I went on to Purdue and played there and was the All-American and won a national championship in the NIT, National Invitational Tournament, in New York City, Madison Square Garden, most valuable player. Had a lot of great things happen because I had a lot of great people around me.
Who was your coach, and who are the people around you? And
Carl Medich in high school was Carl Medich. Jack Bradford one year, my sophomore year, and he told me, he said, you're going a lot of places. And I always looked up to him. But Carl Medich was my coach, and I think he handled me extremely well. He always put me in a position to be successful. and he made sure that everybody else knew that. For case in point, in the Indiana All-Star game, Indiana-Kentucky High School All-Star, I wanted Mr. Basketball because guys around Indianapolis got it, and I wanted to be on that list up there with that number 3. So it came down, so we were playing Kentucky in Louisville, and we got down, the score was tied, but we had the ball. Now, Coach Angus Nickerson, who was our coach, he always liked my passion for the game and understood the game. So we had the ball with 5 seconds left. And Coach Nickerson called a timeout. And he says, now guys, we're gonna get the ball to Frank, then we're gonna get out of the way. And I said, I didn't even have to say anything. I just looked at him. I said, we're winning. And so.
That was the advent of the clear out.
Yeah, that was it.
Give me the ball, and y'all go over there, and I'll take care of the rest of this business.
5 seconds. And so I played that in my mind growing up 1,000,000 times. No way I could fail. No way. And I had that ball. I got the ball. They threw me the ball there, and I dribbled right into the lane. I had a spot I wanted to get to, and I knew I'd be by myself. I got in the lane about 10, 12 feet from the lane, and I rose. And when I got up here, I was up here. I was looking down here, and I said, "Oh boy, this is it."
Bucket.
Yeah, that's it. Boom, and the horn goes off, and I said, "Give me my Mr. Basketball."
Right.
I wanted to be called Mr. Basketball to this day.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Because you are Mr. Basketball in our mind. You're Mr. Arsenal for sure. And so how'd they recruit you to Purdue? What anybody else was recruiting you? I know you had to be recruited by everybody.
I could have gone everywhere, but I'm a mama's boy. I was a mama's boy. I was loyal to my city, and I wanted to stay at home and play. And that was the main reason you couldn't get me out of here. They tried, and they tried a lot of different things to do it. That's just a part of recruiting. But it all helped me too, because as I grew up and became the All-American at Purdue, Hall of Famer, et cetera, they allowed me to play the way I was capable of playing. And that makes a big difference. We won a lot of games. If ever needed a basket, get the ball to Frank, get out of the way.
So you had support systems all the way through, and family. You mentioned it from a big family and a mama's boy. Mm-hmm. So mom boy's not going to let you get too far away from home. But at the same time, you knew that you had to get your grades, or you're not going to succeed, and you're not going to be able to pay anything forward. So tell us about the academic rigor that you had there at Purdue, and that gave you opportunities later in life.
I went in. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster and announcer, so I was in communications. I went into school of communications, so I got my degree from Purdue in communications, and I wanted to go in and be a broadcaster, or whatever it take may be, get on the camera and just let good things flow through the camera. So graduated in 4 years, which is a heck of a thing.
Back in those days, for sure.
Yeah, some 74 years exactly. Had more credits than I needed. I had a coach by the name of Bob King, and he was assistant coach with a crew-cut haircut. I just loved him. I'd run through a wall for him. He said, "You're going to get your degree in 4 years if it kills the two of us." So he was right there with me.
Right.
And you have to appreciate that.
So kind of mentors that you had there, but.
And George King, and they were not related, but their last name was King. But that was why I loved Purdue so much, because the people were fantastic, and they still are.
Right. You had the big rivalry with IU. Tell us about that.
That was always good. I enjoyed playing that, and I enjoyed, as a coach at Purdue, I enjoyed playing them and coaching them and beating them. I figured out how to beat them as a coach. I tell my coach, Katie, I tell him, I said, "Hey, if we just get a decent share of the calls here, we win the game." And we got them, so I said, I started talking to the referee rather than coach. And I started talking to him, and I talked to him as gentlemen, from one gentleman to another. All I want is a fair shot. I'm not asking you to do me any favors. Just give me a fair shot. Is that too much to ask?
So you tossed up, and you're around basketball crazy state of Indiana.
Great.
You do well, All-American, Hall of Fame. Then the pros come calling.
Yes.
So tell us about that venture to the Warriors.
Yeah.
They weren't as good as they are right now.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, you're pretty good.
Wow. What does that say?
Okay, you pull up a shirt that says what? Champs.
What kind of
8-time champs. Oh, it says 6-time champs. See, I can't read, but
world champs?
world champs.
Yeah, don't forget that word.
Yes, sir. I would never forget the word world champs. And he's talking about the Warriors with the Splash Brothers who are trying to get it won now. But back in the day, you could kind of hold that there for a minute. Yeah, you can do that. You wanted to be broadcasting, right?
Yeah.
You said that was good. So,
exactly.
So you got it right now.
Absolutely.
So you get drafted by the Warriors?
I get drafted by the Warriors, and in the NBA, it was NBA, ABA.
Right.
And I was drafted by Denver in the first round. In
the ABA.
In the ABA. And that's when they were talking about the league was tittering. You know,
Right. Where they were going to be in round and out.
Right, exactly. And so everybody was running from the ABA and to the NBA because it was solid. And I went with the Baltimore Claws, a new ABA franchise at that time, but got away from that, and then Denver, then the Warriors. And we went to camp, and I always wanted to leave an impression of my state, where I come from. And we went to camp, and Coach Al Ados, who was a tough guy. I loved him, though. That was my man.
He was a great player, too.
Oh, he was. He played defense.
Yes.
Couldn't throw it in the ocean, but he could play defense. And Coach had, he was running us in practice one day in camp. And rookie camp was 18 rookies. And he was running us from around the court, up and back around. And he just let us run. And guys, and it was hot that day. They're in San Francisco. And it was hot, and the air conditioning wasn't on. And I know that was by design. And so as we're going, guys start, Jamal Wilkes was in that class, Hall of Famer.
Right.
Jamal passed out from the heat. Phil Smith was a great one, passed out from the heat. Willie Biles passed out from the heat. Guys kept falling out as they ran by, and Coach Adams was just standing there, and the guys ran around him, and they were dropping. And as I ran by him, standing there, I said, "You will drop before I do." And he turns around and says, "That's why I draft kids from Indiana."
Ah, so there you go. Because we're tougher, a little bit better.
And we're passionate.
And we're passionate about the game, no doubt about it. Well, you've taken that passion, and the Warriors are competing as we speak, and
we'll
maybe
win.
another world champion.
We'll win.
In our last, we'll win. He's making a prediction here.
We're wrong.
Okay, I remember when Michael Irvin was on our show, and he predicted who thought was going to win the Super Bowl. But I guess he was wrong too. But anyway, all that said, with the Warriors, and you might have Milwaukee on the other side, but you got another minute here.
Okay.
Less than a minute. But in that first time, say, what are you doing now, Frank, and what folks can name?
Well,
remember?
I'm tired now. I'm 71 now. I'm retired now, but I'm an IA and instructional assistant over at the Noblesville High School, working with the wonderful kids and the wonderful people there, teachers and administrators, hard work. And my wife works over there. My wife speaks 8 different languages.
So you've taken that, you're passing it on to the youngsters that are being able to embody some of the passion that you brought from the Arsenal to number 34 at Purdue,
right,
to playing for keeps and being here right here. Thank you so much, Frank, for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Everybody here, come back next Friday night for another version of Playing for Keeps.
And could I say hello to my wife and beautiful daughter and my wonderful sons, 2 sons and 1 daughter.
All right.